According to multiple reports, another Toronto Raptors trade is imminent. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying, as it looks like Chris Boucher is on his way out from the Toronto Raptors. We've heard these reports a ton over the past couple of weeks, and Masai Ujiri has been trigger happy, making moves, making trades, not just today, last night. Everything is going crazy right now for the Raptors around the NBA, so we're going to break down all of the latest news. But folks, we will also be live for this trade deadline. So while this video's up, while you're probably watching, we're live. So watch this video and then tune in to the live stream, because we have a lot of crazy stuff to discuss at this year's trade deadline. But let's dive into the madness, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But let's dive into it. So basically, if I can press the right buttons, we have new reports coming out essentially revealing that I'm hearing the Raptors may not be done quite yet with PJ Tucker and the second round pick they just got for Davion Mitchell. So with the previous trade they just made, Toronto has been active in trade conversations and has explored opportunities to build on their new core with young, versatile talent. So the Raptors, if you're not familiar, if you haven't been watching, they have made a ton of different moves over the past, 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever the heck it is. Masai Ujiri's been out here cooking to the extreme, trying to make different moves, trying to get things done. And the next guy that seems like is on the radars in the mix for one of these trades is Chris Boucher, who is, of course, a fan favorite. It sucks to see, but we'll break down all the reports before I dive into the analysis and stuff. The Raptors don't find a trade they like before the deadline for Tucker. They will very likely buy him out, which is something they didn't want to do in a deal with the Clippers involving Chris Boucher unless they were receiving more value. So this is interesting. So the Toronto Raptors already had a deal the other day done involving Chris Boucher going to the LA Clippers and then PJ Tucker coming to the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors did not want to buy him out. They didn't want to waste the money because it is still millions of dollars. And I know Rogers, out there juicing up the phone bills. They don't want to come out here and spend any of the dimes that they stole from Canadians. But I digress. The phone bills are going up after the Brandon Ingram extension. I was joking about that in the live stream yesterday. But PJ Tucker, the Raptors didn't want to bring him in and then have to buy him out. They want extra draft pick compensation. They want extra stuff out there in the mix for one of these deals. And he was just recently acquired a couple of hours ago for Davion Mitchell, and the Raptors received a second round pick from the LA Lakers in 2026. So PJ Tucker is a guy that's going to get bought out if he's not dealt once again. So firstly, the Toronto Raptors are looking to deal away PJ Tucker to another team and see what they could do. See if anyone else will eat out his contract, will keep him from being out there on the court for this Raptors team out there in the mix. Obviously a two-time Toronto Raptor. Both times kind of ended ugly. So it's not an ideal kind of fit, not even though he's a veteran in the locker room. Expensive. The Raptors are trying to get off of him. But we have another report that essentially breaks down that for Michael Grange saying he just landed OKC, so late to this place, but it's a pure cap space rental here, and PJ Tucker's third go around with the Toronto Raptors, but doubt he sees the floor with the team this time. My understanding is the Raptors are looking to make one more move, most likely involving Chris Boucher. So that's where things get juicy. That's where things get very, very interesting because, of course, Chris Boucher is a fan favorite. Averages 11 points per game, is the reason the Toronto Raptors are winning a ton of these games over the past couple weeks, and he knocks down the three ball. He's Canadian, he's 32 years old, not old and washed by any means, still in the prime of his career, a guy that just, it would hurt to see look at him watch and see him in another jersey. That's the reality of what's going on, and the heart is telling me about Chris Boucher here now at this point. But of course, the Toronto Raptors are in a very weird spot because essentially, looking at the contract details, they acquired, let's take a look at this one first. They acquired Brandon Ingram out there and in terms of a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans. And essentially, the salaries were even. The salaries are pretty dead on even. So there wasn't a big change in terms of the Toronto Raptors cap when they traded for Brandon Ingram. But what happened was today, they acquired the $11.5 million from Davion Mitchell, from Davion Mitchell's $6.5 million. So that ate into the Toronto Raptors sort of buffer that they had with the tax apron. So the Toronto Raptors are now $4.6 million below the tax. So that means they don't have to pay any tax. And if you're in the repeater tax, that's very bad for your team long term. Because, of course, Raptors fans, we don't really care about ownership, especially with how big the corporations are that own MLSE. We're not too worried about those guys having to eat into their pockets and pay a little bit extra to have some guys out there on the roster. But Where the issues come in with the tax is when you're in the repeater tax, when you're multiple seasons over that tax apron, that's when things get dicey, because you start getting limited in terms of the trades you can make. You get limited in terms of the draft. Like, you can have your draft picks removed. There are a lot of essentially bad things that can happen to your team if this sort of if your team ends up entering into the tax situation. So Chris Boucher is an expiring contract, so it's not urgent for the Toronto Raptors to deal him away, but he's valuable to other teams because the Raptors can come in and bring in a little bit of extra money. I mean, you look at the Miami Heat right now. They are how much below the they're above the tax apron by $2.8 million. The Raptors are $4.6 million below the tax. So if they took on a contract from the Miami Heat, that was like $3 million, and both teams would be under the tax. Chris Boucher goes out, and then there's a deal where everyone's happy. The Raptors get draft pick compensation for helping out a team do something out there on that front. So that's where one of these deals become valuable. And then in the future, Chris Boucher is not impacting the cap long term. So for future seasons because again, the cap rules are kind of recent, they've changed up the NBA. So a lot of these big contracts that are, they weren't really planned for to have this much of an impact on the whatever teams are out there. So expiring contracts are extra valuable at this year's trade deadline. That's why Chris Boucher is extremely valuable, including his ability to go to a contending team and actually have a positive impact out there on winning. Chris Boucher is a very, very good basketball player, so the Raptors could get some serious value back from him. And frankly, I know it's unrealistic. I know I overvalue Raptors players a lot. That is what it is. I'd love to get a first-round pick back for Chris Boucher, even if it's a trash one, even if it's 2045. I don't care what it is. You get a first or one of those elite seconds, from a team. What's out there? Of course, we have the Blazers pick this year, but a Wizards second or one of these seconds from a team that's going to be bottom 10 in the league, then that's a decent return, including whatever players you end up getting back for Chris Boucher. PJ Tucker, I don't know how easy it is going to be to get off of his money, but it's $11 million. Maybe there's a team out there that's a little bit above the rate. And again, the Toronto Raptors have about let's get this back up, about $4.6 million to play with, to have fun with out there in the sort of below the apron. Of course, they might want to bring in some 10-day contracts. I'm not sure how closely that would affect that $4.6 million. I think it's how you end the season. So we'll see how things end up shaking up for this Raptors group. But more moves are imminent, according to Brett Siegel as well as Michael Grange. So we'll see if this actually comes to fruition. We will be live probably in 30 minutes. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on. We're keeping you up to date with the up-to-the-minute coverage on this Toronto Raptors team. But folks, you guys are the best to make this far. Appreciate all the support we get out here on the channel for the latest Toronto Raptors coverage. Things are going absolutely crazy right now across the NBA. We'll see if Chris Boucher does end up getting traded. We'll see if these moves end up going down. I hope I don't know what I hope, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.